you don't need to trust any other counterparty to exchange assets or store some data or build an application.
对，所以为什么我们需要区块链？就是它是一个 trust，它是一个无需信任的一个工具，一个平台，在上面可以去注册自己账户啊，然后开发各种各样应用啊。
The other interesting part, which especially excites me, as I was trying to build a company before blockchain in AI space, and one of the biggest problem was that we do not have access to user data in other applications.
对，另外一个很大的需求或者诉求，驱动伊利亚他们去做这个 NIA Protocol 项目，是因为他之前是做 AI 的，但是做 AI 的时候的话，他们没有办法进入一些大公司的后台，然后获得数据来锻炼它的模型。
In kind of decentralized world, the user owns their own data, which means that if user decides to use my application and they give me permission to use another person's application's data, I can actually have access to it. Versus, in web, if I want to build application that uses users' WeChat data, I cannot because Tencent will ban me.
所以说，在区块链时代的话，就是用户个人或者说数据所有者个人，其实是可以授权基于这个数据所开发应用的方，或者说其他的这个服务方来调用这个数据，当然是基于授权的。就比如说在以前，刚才提到是 Facebook 还是滴滴，我忘了，反正类似这样中心化平台。如果说你作为一个跨平台的服务商，想去调用那家公司，不管是 Facebook 也好，滴滴也好，这是挺难的事情。
And what this means is you actually have a new world of composable applications, right? So instead of building one huge, WeChat that does everything, right? You can communicate, you have social network, you pay, you do everything in one app. Instead, you can actually have millions of apps working together, kind of sharing data that pretty much user accessing this application and sharing their data to this application across different apps.
所以说。就是我们要构建一个兼容的、可互操作的这样的一个网络，不再是以前一个单独的中心化大平台，然后在上面给你提供不管是小程序还是这样的中心化的应用，而是有无数个、几百万个去中心化的应用，然后像他们这样的开发者或者说你作为一个用户，可以跨平台的、自由的调用各种各样的数据，当然前提还是在于获得数据所有者的授权。
And that's what's as an entrepreneur, that's what excites to me because now, for example, one thing I'm really annoyed with is here in China, people use WeChat as what we use LinkedIn in US, right? And I also have friends who I would use a regular chat with. So in reality, I want two different UIs, but I want the same social graph on the back end that actually supports it. And if these applications were built kind of using blockchain and decentralized technologies, you could actually just build a lot of different UIs for the same data for the same users.
对，所以说在中国这边，对于任何老外都一样，在中国这边的话，都会碰到这样的挑战。比如说他提到在中国我们用 WeChat，然后在国外他们比如说 LinkedIn 或者 Facebook 它是用不同的 UI，但都是同一个人都是伊利亚或者都是我。那这样子的时候的话就很讨厌，你不同的 UI，你的数据在每一个平台上必须创建2遍那如果说在 blockchain 上面的话，你就可以同一套账户，然后授权不同的这个平台来调用数据，同一个身份、同一个账户、跨平台、跨银行。
And all of this kind of goes into ability to build new businesses and innovate on business models. And that's what also is very exciting is that we can align incentives around building new applications, building a better decentralized world, and kind of being able to make new interesting businesses.
对，所以说这就是驱动他们做这个事情的原因你可以在上面去创造很多的激励机制，让大家在去中心化平台上面创造很多有意思的应用、有意思的各种各样的工具。
So kind of to show you an example, right? Let's say we have a person who was driving in US a Uber and have made many rides, collected really good rating, and then they moved to China, for example, and started driving for Didi. And they needed to start from zero, right? Because there's no data that would be shared between Uber and Didi.
也就是说，这是他举的例子。Uber 和滴滴在一个司机，如果是你是司机，在美国这边，你开滴滴，你会积累很多的这个用户数据，包括你开了100次，然后什么声誉。在中国的话，你同一个司机，你去注册滴滴，你在上面是无法兼容你之前在开 Uber 时候这些数据。当然，用户也不知道你是个好司机还是坏司机。
So if these applications were built in decentralized world, right, then the user would actually own their reputation and own their data about rights they made in these apps, and then they would kind of were able to just approve Uber or Didi to use this data and kind of prioritize their rights.
对，如果说在一个去中心化的平台上，你去创建，或者说遇到这样的情况，就不会发生这样的麻烦，因为你作为数据所有者，你可以授权 Uber 或者说滴滴来调用你的数据，来获得你的声誉或者说评价，来避免了你在两个不相兼容的超级中心化大平台里面，你数据不能跨平台，然后这样的一些问题，数据啊、账户啊、经验啊、资产啊不能跨平台这样一些问题。
So what is Near Protocol? Near Protocol is a Silicon Valley company that pretty much builds infrastructure for a decentralized world, right? And our main focus is on making it really easy to use both for developers and users. So we focus on experience. We focus on scalability because if your application is easy to use, you'll get a lot of users. You get a lot of users and your platform doesn't scale, it all kind of breaks apart. And we kind of focus on innovation, as I was talking, trying to build more and more interesting applications that are impossible right now.
对，所以说 Near Protocol 呢，作为一家在 Silicon Valley 的公司，就专注于要未来的这些刚才提到去中心化应用提供一个高可用的基础设施。他们专注于在高可扩展性上面，然后的话要去提供最佳的用户体验以及各种各样的，它会支持各种各样基于它这个平台上开发的 App 的这样一个创新。
So, who is here familiar with DApps in general? Like how DApps are structured? So, the kind of general idea is a DApp is almost the same as a regular application, but the part where usually we would have a backend and a cloud in Ali Cloud or AWS, in the centralized world, instead you have a smart contract and a blockchain on the backend.
对，所以说他问一下有多少人是这边了解或开发过 DApps 就是在 Smart Contract 里面 DApps 就是在区块链里面 DApps 其实和我们现在用的中心化的应用整个架构是差不多的，都有对应的。比如说在 Smart Contract 这边对应的这个 Smart Contract 逻辑对应的其实就是我们后台对应的中心化应用的这个后台，然后跑的呢是在阿里云上面，或者说在腾讯云上面。那区块链里面的话 ，Smart Contract 呢其实是跑在这个就在 DApp 里面的这个智能合约呢是跑在区块链平台上，但前面的前端呢其实是一样的。
So, and usually when you think of cloud, you don't think there's one computer running there, right? There's lots and lots, like tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of machines running. When we think of blockchain right now, we're actually running one computer. It is a lot of nodes, but they're doing exactly the same work, right? So obviously this is not a scalable solution, right? You do need more computers doing different work to do more things.
所以说在现在我们中心化的应用里面，其实一旦想到云，你不会想到是一台机器，你会想到有很多成千上万台的服务器，然后给你提供这样的一个服务。但是在区块链里面呢，其实有很多台一样的，就很多台机器来给你提供相同的服务，是不可扩展的。然后当然这个性能也会比较糟糕因为大家都是作为节点来同步一套账本，同步一套状态机，那当然会比较麻烦。
So the solution is sharding. So that's what we've done in Web 2 when we built companies like Google and Facebook, right? Just run a lot of machines in parallel doing different work. The same is with blockchain. And here's some links to learn more about sharding. I'll not go too deep into it, but feel free to follow up on that.
所以说就是为了解决刚才说区块链这样的不可扩展性能差这样一个问题的话，这个解决方案就是做 shading 就是做分片这里就是他之前做的就是他们的 shade 你看影片后，大家可以留意一下这两个链接。
So just and super high level, right? So the blockchain right now is run on one machine, and obviously we need to run more machines in parallel and do different work. So this is what sharding is, and we had just published actually a paper, and the code is in GitHub to implement it of our custom design of sharding called Nightshade.
对，他们在 GitHub 上面就发布了定制化的分片的解决方案就这个叫 Nightshade， 就是它的分片的设置解决方案。
And the question is like, why is sharding so hard, right? Why it's been, I think Ethereum been talking about sharding for like last 2.5 years. Like, why is it not built yet? And the answer is because if before in like blockchain, right, every single node in the system would observe blocks and validate them, right? Now in sharding, you can only see some subset of the block, right? You can only see some parts of the block. And that makes the security of the network extremely hard to make.
对，其实提出分片方案是好几年前就有人提出了，有很多文件，有很多论文，有很多白皮书都介绍了先进的就分片的这个方案。但为什么到现在都没有比较成熟的分片的这个方案出现？就是因为分片的机制是比较复杂，因为在一个分片的网络里面的话，你作为一个 validator 或者说你这个节点，你看到的只是在 block 里面具体的几个你看到只是具体的几个 block 这样的一个数据，或者具体几个节点的这样的一个数据。那这里面就会产生，你要对全局产生共识，你怎么去确保这样的一个情况？因为必然，如果说你只能看到里面几个，或者说出块方，或者说这样的一个打包者他的一个数据的话，那必然对于全局共识这边你是缺少 whole picture。
So the way Nightshade approaches this is by having a set of validators who are actually validating these blocks, but each one of them validating only part of it. But the assignment, like which parts and which shards they're validating, is unknown to anybody except them. So we call it hidden validators.
所以它的解决方案呢，就是由一组随机的叫验证者，然后在里面是进行随机的来进行分组，来对于这些节点对于这些数据呢来进行共识同时的话，谁可以对哪一部分的 shade 来进行共识的话，是只有验证者自己才会知道。
And what this allows to do is kind of have a shared security pool, like the whole stake of a system now is not split between shards, but instead kind of protects the whole, like each shard individually through the whole stake of all the validators.
所以它这边就提供了叫 pooled security， 就是这个就是集体式的这个安全共识机制。And then for the after the pooled security, what? I don't remember what.
So. For example, like usually if you know who is in which shard, then the security of each shard is divided, the total amount of stake is divided by number of shards. Because you can go to that shard and pay the people in that shard to do a malicious thing. Here, the security is actually shared, and kind of to attack the system, you actually need to kind of have enough money to attack the full stake of the whole system.
所以说他说就是在以前的分片里面的话，因为你知道谁是在里面参与分片的你可以提前去贿赂那个出块的，或者说提供共识的这个验证者，然后去让他去，不管是多签也好，双花也好，或者说篡改历史数据也好，这都是有可能的但是在现在的它这样一个基于随机性的分片机制里面的话，如果说你就是想对于某一个具体的交易，或者对于某一个具体的块来进行攻击的话，你就必须要去贿赂购买所有的这个 validator 就随机分配的这个 validator， 才能确保这些 validator 里面随机的 validator 里面有你要去有叫贿赂或者说你要去攻击的这个数据的出块人和验证者，这样的话大大增加了整个网络的攻击和篡改的难度。
So scalability is great, but to actually build a platform that people will use, the really important part is developers, like making it really easy for developers to start building applications on this. And our goal is actually making it easier than to do it on kind of Web 2 world, like easier than to use Google Cloud, easier than AWS.
所以说怎么让大家去基于 NIA Protocol 这边来开发呢？就是一定要做到开发者友好。所以它现在其实是在 Web 2的一些基础，比如说 Amazon 和 Google Cloud 就 AWS 和 Google Cloud 上面，让开发者可以非常方便的开发基于 NIA Protocol 的这些智能合约。
So to do that, we build a lot of things. So to start with, our kind of smart contract platform allows to use TypeScript, Rust, and Solidity. And TypeScript, if you don't know, it's actually a language, kind of a superset of a JavaScript language, which a lot of front-end and full-stack engineers know.
所以说它现在就是通过支持 TypeScript 和 Rust， 还有包括 Solidity 的这样一些 WebAssembly 的这个工具， 然后支持在 Web 2.0时代已经大家广泛共识这些技术栈呢，让这个开发者能非常方便的进行开发。
So our goal is that like a front-end engineer or a full-stack engineer doesn't need to learn about blockchain and can go in and start building applications. And like one of the parts we did is actually we built an online IDE, an integrated developer environment, in which a developer can go on their laptop and start, without installing anything, without learning about blockchain, build an application, deploy it, and get users on it.
对，所以它的目标呢，就是让前端和全站的开发者呢，他不用理解区块链是什么东西，就直接比如说在你的 PC 上面就可以基于他为这个开发者所设计的这个线上集成开发环境 IDE 呢来进行直接的开发，非常方便理解。
Then the other part is like making it really easy for, again, like people who are familiar with JavaScript to develop locally as well. So all of our kind of command line tools are work really nicely with npm, which is a JavaScript node environment. And you can just say npm install, npm deploy, etc.
所以它这边也是提供了这个支持标准的命令行工具的 node 管理包，跟 npm 的这样一个管理器同时包括它也提供方便 JavaScript 开发者的这个软件 SDK 开发工具包。
And so JavaScript SDK is actually to connect your front-end application to the smart contract, to the backend. And again, it's very similar and very easy to use for anybody who's familiar with JavaScript.
对，就是这个 SDK 的工具包呢，就方便开发者能够非常方便的调用后端，包括前端和后端可以互相调用，非常方便，对于用户开发者的友好性。
So now let's say, with this tooling you can actually like in an hour build like an NFT or something similar, right? But that's great, you deployed it, but if you need to get users, they need to go through pretty much a hell of steps.
所以说你现在的话，其实也可以，就是按现在区块链也可以开发，但是你要比如他这边接下来就会举个例子你如果说要基于现在的区块链的架构来进行开发的话，你就需要这些步骤，我也会介绍这个步骤。
Like they need to install a wallet like a MetaMask. They need to create a key pair, which nobody knows what key pair is. They need to, go to some exchange, go through KYC, actually pay some real money to get Ethereum to spend on gas. Moves that from Coinbase or from an exchange to the MetaMask. Like each step takes like a bunch of time, and at the end they'll actually be able to use your app, right? So, like imagine if to sign up for WeChat you would need to go through all the steps. They would not have any users.
对，所以他说在以太坊上，如果说你要去购买一些什么数字资产，或者说发起这个数字资产交易的话，你需要 MetaMask 然后再创建你自己的私钥，然后在 Coinbase 上面来注册，然后去通过 Coinbase 给你的这个很严格的 KYC， 然后呢再去购买你的 ETH 资产，然后再把你的 ETH 资产从 Coinbase 里面的提到 MetaMask 里面，在 MetaMask 里面再去买，就比如说像这一个加密猫的这样的一个加密资产所以每个步骤都要花很长时间。所以他就是说，如果想象一下，你要通过这样的复杂的方式去注册你的微信账号那你肯定不会去注册你的微信账号，因为这太麻烦了。但现在至少你去购买加密猫里面，大家就是这么复杂。但是其他的这个智能资产，就数字资产里，包括你要去调用智能合约的话，都是这么复杂。
So to address this, we built few things. One is we built our own in-browser wallet, which means you don't need to install anything to start using blockchain.
所以说他现在为了解决刚才说的很复杂的这个挑战的话，他做了很多事情，比如说现在就做了一个浏览器内的这样的钱包。
The second part is we have what we call like OAuth flow. So if you're familiar with like you go to some app, it says log in with WeChat or log in with Facebook, and then you go to WeChat, you approve this app, and you go back and you start using it. So the same idea here, we built this type of flow, and as part of it, we actually changed a lot how the accounts in blockchain work.
所以另外一个工作呢，它就是利用了这个类似于像授权的，就是这个就是账户授权这个方式，就好像如果说，比如说大家用过一些，就中国这边不太多这其实微信也是，如果说你要开一个第三方的用户账户或者你要开一个应用，或者开一个平台你其实就可以调用第三方的这个账户，比如说 WeChat， 在中国就 WeChat， 在国外呢就可能 Facebook 或 LinkedIn 或者说 Google 这个账户，然后一旦得到授权的话，那这个平台就会 基于第三方的这个身份、第三方的这样一个认证，然后为你在他的平台上呢创建一个相应式的这个账户。所以他这边其实也做了相应的这个逻辑，可以通过Nia Protocol 通过这个第三方的这个身份的方式呢，来去授权帮你创建一个新的账户。
So for example, our accounts are keyed by a regular username, and then you can have multiple apps authorized, and each authorization of the app is actually a new key pair that the app has to sign transactions on your behalf. So it's very similar how OAuth actually works, if you're familiar with it.
所以说，它现在就是让不同的它这个 drawer 的这个 process 这个流程，就是让不同，比如说它这有 new process new place 或者其他这样不同的这个 app 之间的这个账户权限来互相授权。
So to do that, we changed kind of the structure of account. So for example, instead of account being keyed by a public key of your key pair, it's keyed by username and has a lot of different what we call access keys.
所以说，它这边就在账户体系上面做了一点工作。所以在现在，比如说在 public key 上面的话，你是可以用自己的这个名字或者身份的话来去创建你这样的一个 key。
And these access keys can pretty much provide a programmatic kind of guarded access to your account. So for example, like the application specific key is something that application is restricted to only use that application and for example only use money for gas.
所以说，它这边创建了可编程的这个访问密钥，专门，比如说它这边举了个例子，就是专门为了一个应用而创设的这个密钥。你这个基于这个应用或者基于这个功能的这个密钥的话，就只能为了这个应用或者这个功能来进行服务，比如说转账或者说支付这样的一个专用密钥，应用专用密钥。
So to address the problem that when user just signs up, they need to right away go and buy some crypto, we actually allow applications to prepay gas fees for the users.
对，所以说这样的话，它其实也可以起到另外功能。就是它可以让用户去注册这个密钥，同时这个密钥就已经被，就是这个密钥已经由开发者或者说服务商预付了这个款项，让用户可以基于预付款的这个密钥来去调用一些，或者说来去使用一些应用。
An example can be, right, for example, a game, you can prepay for users to start playing and then you can maybe charge them later. Or you can have a monthly subscription fee, you can have ads, you can have various different business models on top of it, but you onboard users right away without kind of sending them through a process where right now we lose about 97% of all the people.
所以说他举了一个例子，就是比如说游戏方为了获得客户的话，你其实就可以基于 Protocol 这边创建预付费的这个密钥，然后分发给你的用户。让用户能够在前期免费的玩你的游戏，当然你也通过可以一些商业模式把这个钱赚回来，比如说他这边提到了用付费会员制的这个模式或者说用其他这样子，比如说广告分享这样的模式，把你去预付费里面预付的这个钱赚回来。
Another possible usage is actually you can create an account with restricted usage, right? You can have a key that only can accept transactions, for example, to spend like $10 a day, right? So you can have a cold, like a key that has full access to all the money in cold storage, and you can have like many keys which have different types of access to your account.
所以说你这边也可以创建专用其实是有限制使用权限这样的密钥，比如说有的密钥它可以被你设置为不能超过，就是这个不能超过支付10块钱一天。然后的话，你可以为你的这个账户创建各种各样、创建很多种权限的这个专用密钥，然后组合起来为你公司提供这样的服务。
This naturally leads to actually have a separate key for staking, and because in a way accounts and contracts is the same, you can actually build a contract-based staking where a contract defines how you delegate, what kind of liquidity you have on staking. Maybe you can create like staking token that provides liquidity to stakers and various other use cases.
所以说它这边也创建了，也就是你也可以创建专门用于 POS staking 质押的这一个密钥你在这个密钥里面就可以在 staking 的不同的功能和权限里面，然后去限制这个密钥的使用功能。
You can also pretty much escalate the security of the system, right? So let's say I start, in a web browser, my key is just like laying somewhere in my browser, but then like tomorrow I got $1 million in this account and I actually want, to use more kind of HSM style security and actually accelerate. What you can do, you can actually switch keys and remove the old key and add a new key, right? Which is something that's impossible to do in existing systems.
所以说，其实你可以就为其他用户呢来创建这个密钥，比如说你有很多钱，你完全可以去创建多套密钥，就是说你可以帮助别人来去切换这样一个密钥。这个其实在现在的这个账户系统里面，就是在区块链的这个账户系统里面是不能实现的。
Or you for example, your app can create accounts on users' behalf, have custody of them, and then when they want them, give them access by again swapping the key, removing your key, and adding their public key to the account.
所以说，你也可以创建专门的这个叫托管这样的一个服务你可以做 swap， 就是做你这个 key 的这个交换。比如说，你为你用户提供了一套 key， 那用户可以把它换成自己这样的一个 key 当然，这个也可以换过去。
So that's pretty much like short intro. You can learn more on nearprotocol.com. We also have, the IDE I showed is live on near.dev. You can actually deploy real applications on testnet right now. If you're interested, I can show it to you on my phone. I can deploy the apps on my phone. How cool is that? We have an example of a NFT token with a cute kind of UI. And then from like things you can sign up for, there's actually a beta program that is live right now. So if you go to nearprotocol.com, there's on the top, there's a bar to sign up, and there's a validator staking kind of competition is coming up soon.
所以说，它这边其实如果说你作为开发者，你可以登录到它的这个 near.dev 这个网站里面去学习怎么使用它的这个运行开发环境去开发你自己的 DApp， 就是去中心化应用。然后它可以演示在手机上就可以很方便的开发第一个的你的 non-fungible 的，就是叫做不可拆分的这样的一个 token 然后同时的话，它现在除了开发者这个招募之外的话，它其实也马上开始要这个节点的招募当然它会近期会启动，据我所知应该是2周内就会启动这个节点这个招募计划。这个节点招募计划里面会有一批节点，然后节点之间呢又会有相同的竞争机制，它也会提供这样的一个奖励。
If QR code doesn't work, I'll add you.
如果说这个 QR code 你们扫不了，它会加你，它会拉你。
So I also wanted to mention our whiteboard series actually was playing while before this started. So this is interviews actually with other protocols. Like yesterday, I had interviewed Nervous. We did Cosmos, Polkadot, Ethereum 2.0, and I think like it's 20 projects now.
所以它这边大家可以到它的这个链接里面去看，他们现在还提供 whiteboard 这样的 whiteboard 就是让开发者就是在白板上面写下自己的相关的开发的思路开发的方式以及进行签戳。他们会采访很多的其他的这个协议的开发者，比如他已经昨天采访了这个 Nervous 的这个开发者，包括还有其他的都忘记这些名字的开发者这些protocol 或者其他应用的开发者。
So that's pretty much it. 谢谢. That's me. You can add me. I'll add you to the group. And we have cute stickers with a near cat.
这是他的微信，然后他有贴纸，大家可以到他的资料。所以我帮他总结一下，他其实 Near Protocol 这个基础设施在 Web3 上面的话，它的特征其实第一是基于 VIF 的高性能分片方式，让整个网络呢它的可扩展性就会变得非常好。同时的话，它的 TPS 就是它的性能也会因为它的一个随机性的这样的一个这个分片呢得到提高，所以高性能、高可扩展性。同时，它又是提供了面向 Web 2.0时代的开发者这样的一个开发环境比如说刚刚看到，你可以非常方便的基于这个 Tencent 就是腾讯云或者说 AWS 来进行开发然后除此以外的话，它这边还提供了一套这个就是创新的这样一个密钥机制，定制化的密钥机制。你可以在现在，因为现在其实大家如果说去玩过 App 的，或者说玩过 DApp 的，或者说去做过自己的这个 DApp 的这些兄弟们应该知道，现在密钥其实没有什么特别大意义或者没有特别 对大家的这样的一个去创造这样的空间。它把密钥呢就真的变成了一个，就像我们现在在 Web 2.0时代这样的一个账户里面，一个高度可定义，比如说 Prepay 啊，你可以去预付，你在你的密钥账户里面可以预充值，然后分发给用户。然后的话，你还可以定义，就是对于这个密钥这样的一个应用场景来进行定义。这对于在现在未来会出现很多各种各样的，比如说 DeFi 呀，或者说 Gambling 啊，或者说其他这样的一个应用场景里面的话，这样子的高可定义的密钥账户生成系统呢，包括它的这样的一个称叫做跨系统叫做其实类似于像是这种多账户联合的这个叫做 authorize， 就是叫做那个授权这样的系统呢，就使得接下来如果说基于它的Near Protocol， 你开发你自己的这个 DApp 的话，你至少是省了很多力气，高可控制、高性能、高 TPS， 同时开发友好，针对于 Web 2时代、Web 2.0时代的用户，这个开发者的开发友好。第三的话，你在里面这个账户系统里面又可以做很多新的玩法出来。
有问题吗？
有问题吗？大家可以用中文或者说英文向伊利亚提问。
没有。好，谢谢。
然后这个我再给大家介绍一下，就是伊利亚他们最近刚刚获得了1200万美金的融资，是吧 ？You have raised more than 10 million US dollar, right? Just recently.
Yes.
对啊，所以说他们接下来呢，其实还是会展开下一轮的募资。所以说大家如果说对于伊利亚这边这个募资感兴趣的话，也可以之后联系他啊。然后同时伊利亚这边他刚刚说也在征集 validator 节点，虽然他现在主网还没上线啊。When will your testnet launch this year? 11 November?
Mainnet is November.
Yes, mainnet. Testnet.
Testnet. So there's testnet running right now.
Really now?
Yeah, and then you can join as validator in 2 weeks.
Okay, I see. 所以他们的测速网络现在已经是运行起来了，2周之内大家就可以加入它测速网络的 validator。然后它的主网的话是今年11月份上线，欢迎大家关注。好，接下来就是我们邀请大斌，欢迎大斌。